Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. I want to begin this week with a few general comments and feedback on your weekly responses. So you've each now received individual feedback on your responses, and I'm happy to chat with you to touch base if you have any concerns or curiosities, if some things aren't making sense or sitting right. These readings are not light, and they require a lot of time to really understand the concepts. So please do reach out if you need support in understanding. The rubric is also posted in the general section of eLearn for your help as well to see what I'm looking for in grading your responses. And as I've mentioned before, you need to explicitly say why it is that something is engaging and draw from the readings to support your arguments. It's not enough to say that you liked this or you're interested in that. You need to unpack why that is and situate it within the readings. It's also not suffice to say what you think needs to be done in early childhood education. So phrases like we need to do this, or it's vital as educators to do this, or not do that, kind of restrict us from having critical conversations that actually unpack and tease out the concepts that are offered from the readings. So I encourage you to be skeptical of what you assume to be true. Be hesitant to providing solutions and recommendations. So let's try to stay more in the teasing out of the questions and the tensions rather than going straight to solutions or what ought to be done. Another piece of feedback that I have is to further disrupt this notion of the self, the child as an individual who's seeking self-discovery and freedom through development. So in this course, we're taking up a post-structural, post-foundational orientation. And so that assumes that there really is no true self, but rather the self is a composition of singularities that are made and remade through discourse. So in your writing, I'm curious to hear more about how social discourses surround and make the child, not so much about the autonomous, freely acting individual in the pursuit of linear development, but more so about the discourses that create the assumptions about who the child is and what is early childhood education for. So this is something that needs to be more disrupted generally in the forums. And again, your online engagement is essential. So you'll need to utilize the online videos and make visible in your writing how you're making sense of the lectures and the readings. So take quotes and ideas from the text and then reframe them into your own words. It's not enough to just reiterate exactly from the text. You need to do some unpacking and situating it within your own words as well. And lastly, we're working to be theoretically sound. So that means that what we're saying is consistent with the theoretical perspectives that are offered in the readings. So you need to clearly and explicitly demonstrate your understanding of the readings by drawing specifically from the text lectures and then situating that within your own writing. And many of you are beginning to unsettle some of the truths that developmental psychology maintains in our field. And I encourage you to stay with the tensions that the text proposes. So we in this course are critiquing developmental theory as an ongoing project of modernity and colonialism that makes multiplicity and becoming and divergence impossible. So in this sense, we're thinking with post-structural theory to think through other ways of thinking and being that unsettle and puncture normative discourses that we often don't even notice we're upholding. So in order to move beyond what you already know and to push past your assumptions, you'll need to really pay attention to what the authors are saying and to try to puncture what you already assume to be true. So when you read, you're already filtering the content through what you already know, through your lens. And the level of critical reading and thinking in this course requires an openness and a vulnerability to other ways of knowing, to other perspectives. So try to stay in a state of wondering and curiosity with the problems that you encounter in the text, rather than, again, moving to solutions or grand narratives that maybe we've already heard. So last week we discussed the image of the child, the construction of childhoods, and how this informs pedagogy. How our image of who the child is informs how we understand the construction of knowledge. Our image of the child is also intimately linked to how we see and practice education and what education is for. So if education is a project in future making, then the subjects that we aim to create in educational processes are in the service of the kinds of futures that we desire. Yet these desires, as we've been discussing, are not at all neutral. They're informed by the social political conditions of time and place. And they're largely informed by normative discourses that assume what is desirable, what is good education, who is the good subject, and what is the good life. What kind of life is deemed as a good one that constitutes a good education? And so this week we're going to be deepening our question of who the child is, particularly in capitalist society and in a neoliberal state. So we're going to be richening some of the conversations that emerged last week and are still emerging in the forums, specifically with regard to how our construction of childhood is in deep relation with the social, political, and economic needs of the nation state, and how this then informs common pedagogical orientations in early childhood education and the making of the early childhood institution as a place where those subjectivities are created. So thinking back to our week with Foucauldian theory, it's important here not to assume neoliberalism or capitalism as something that exists out there that comes in from above upon us, or that it's something that's only impeding on us or influencing us, but rather we need to think how it operates through discursive logics, through surveillances of ourselves in relation to each other, how we are subject of and subject to neoliberalism, that we actively negotiate these dynamics as they live not only around us but also through us, how we are mitigators and we also reproduce these logics ourselves as well.